How you BK? Because anybody could get shot. You talk man.
Fuck you talking about?
Anybody.
That shit, block.
Dumb son?
You ain't safe.
You ain't safe. I ain't gonna lie. I'll say
Bro, we out, bro. We out Lori Long that. Got pissing on my son, Goon Ward. Bugging. Word of my dad, nigga. Bugging. Nah, they need to come on this live though.
K-Flock's story is one of the most intense stories we have ever covered on this channel. From sliding on his ops on Instagram Live to beefing with his own blood cousin, K-Flock was quite literally the talk of the town. He had the city in a chokehold with his gangster persona, designer clothes, and pushing a Lambo in the Bronx. K-Flock was on top of the world. Although having made it with his success, he still had one foot in the streets. It was authentic and real, quite literally, and worked as a great marketing tactic for his music career. But living a real street life has real consequences. On December 16th, 2021, K-Flock was walking with his sister and her friend down 155th Street and Amsterdam Avenue when everything took a dramatic turn. He crossed paths with a rival gang member, and after a brief exchange of words moments later, the man, identified as 24-year-old Oscar Hernandez, was struck by a shot to the neck, ending his life. Investigators quickly identified K-Flock in his $4,000 outfit as the prime suspect. They issued a warrant for his arrest on charges of first-degree murder. Just days later, at only 18 years old, K-Flock admitted to the shooting. His lawyer quickly released a statement claiming it was an act of self-defense. According to the statement, someone approached him with aggression, and the entire incident was caught on video. When the man fell, it was revealed he had a loaded gun in his pocket, his hand on it at the time of the incident. The defense argued this was a clear case of self-defense. Surveillance footage seemed to support this claim, showing K-Flock being approached and threatened first. Throughout 2022, his court dates were delayed time after time, and it seemed likely he'd beat the case and walk free. But the federal government had other plans. They weren't about to let K-Flock walk out of this. On February 23rd, 2023, the feds came in hard, slapping him with a 15-page indictment, along with 7 others. Now labeled as the head of an organized crime ring, K-Flock is facing the possibility of life in prison, or in the worst-case scenario, the death penalty. Kevin Perez, born on April 20th, 2003 in the Bronx, New York, grew up in the area known for both its rich hip-hop history and its struggle with poverty and crime. Nearly 40% of the Bronx lives below the poverty line, making it a hotbed for gang activity and street violence. Unfortunately, K-Flock was no exception to this harsh environment. Growing up, K-Flock's mother says he tried sports, like boxing, and had an interest in fashion. But she never imagined he'd become a rapper.
The first time I heard something, my oldest son was the one who came to me, was like, "Mom, did you hear your son?" I'm like, "Who?" He's like, "Hello, your other son, Kay." So I'm like, where am I hearing him? Like, what are you talking about? He was like, he's doing music on YouTube, he's rapping. But I see his face is serious, not like laughing like, you know, he sounds stupid and whatever. So, and I'm like, for real? He's like, "Mom, for real?" He's like, "He sound good too. Let me see." Pulls out the YouTube, I'm looking and I'm like, wow. It's like, not for nothing. Not to toot my own horn, but my son sounds real good. Like, he sounds better than a lot of guys that's actually signed nowadays. And I'm like, and not for nothing, he kind of sounds like a Pop Smoke with that voice. So
Despite the expectations, K-Flock's real passion was in the streets. By the time he was just 10 years old, he was already out on the block, hustling like someone far older than his years. As K-Flock got older, he started paying attention to the growing Chicago drill scene, which was making waves while the Bronx was still developing its own sound. Even though he was young, he quickly learned how to navigate the streets and make connections. He wasn't just good at making enemies, he was even better at forming alliances and building friendships. One of his homies was Arian Howard, better known as Dougie B. Dougie B wasn't just a friend, he was K-Flock's right-hand man. The two were inseparable, with Dougie B helping K-Flock navigate both the streets and the music industry. Then there was B Love, the oldest of the group, and was the first to take rap seriously. He became a strong influence on the others, helping to shape their mindset. Lastly, there was Jalen, also known as PMVJ, who was once part of their circle. For them, the streets were thrilling, full of excitement and opportunity. But they didn't fully understand the cost that came with this lifestyle. The pain of losing family and friends was just part of growing up in the Bronx. For K-Flock and his crew, the streets were like a playground. Thrilling, dangerous, and unpredictable. At such a young age, they didn't fully grasp the consequences of their actions. Coming from 187th Street, K-Flock was deeply tied to a gang called Sev Side and DOA. Like any street crew, they had their fair share of beefs with other gangs. At one point, they even adopted the name EBK, Everybody Killers, because to them, anyone could get caught in the crossfire. They weren't shy about the fact that they had plenty of enemies, with YGs and OGs being their primary rivals. Jalen, also known as PMVJ, found success with his music early on, dropping songs like OMBK that started to get some serious attention. Watching PMVJ get those views motivated the others to start thinking they could do the same. K-Flock was busy running through his ops in the streets. He wasn't hiding it either, going live on Instagram to show the world he wasn't afraid to be in rival hoods and making it clear he wasn't concerned about his own safety.
One day I walk on, suck my rock, nigga, I'm right here, nigga, Dolo, nigga, fuck niggas talking about. We out this game for white, nigga, let's go, 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 give me, let's go.
With his unshakable confidence, he carried himself like nothing could touch him, embracing the street life with no fear. K-Flock was receiving attention, but not the good. It was mostly negative, but it was undeniable. It was helping build his name and reputation fast. Within just a few months, he managed to gather a dedicated following, with hundreds of viewers tuning into his streams where he'd taunt his rivals. Despite the growing attention, music wasn't his top priority. The streets still had his full focus, and that's where he felt most connected. At the same time, the music scene in New York City was going through a shift. While artists like A Boogie and Lil TJ with their melodic auto-tune style had previously set the city's sound, a new wave was taking over. By 2018, Brooklyn drill artists, drawing influence from UK drill beats, had started to make waves, creating a harder, rawer sound that took the streets by storm. Brooklyn was getting its shine, but the Bronx still hadn't caught up. That was all about to change, though, as K-Flock and his peers were ready to push their sound to the forefront and represent their city. When B-Love came home from serving his sentence, Dougie B pushed him and K-Flock to take music seriously. But at the same time, things were heating up in the streets. PNVJ, one of their close friends, had started repping a new set, which didn't sit well with Dougie B and the others in their crew. This sparked tension, leading to an inevitable fallout. One day, PMVJ was back in Southside visiting family when Dougie B and another friend showed up. They asked his mom if he was home, and not knowing about the beef, she said he was upstairs. This set off a chain of events. Dougie B allegedly took PMVJ's chain and recorded the whole thing on video.
Your dumbass mother. Talk him out. Niggas talking crazy. Fuck you talking about? Shut up. See the chain, nigga. See the chain, nigga. Y'all see the face.
This Doug's got PNVJ.
K-Flock naturally sided with Dougie B, and this drama became part of the streets' ever-growing tension.
I'm just here to tell you what happened, you feel me, bro? It was no just snatch my chain. It was no, oh, we saw him on some trail sand. We in the old right here and we just snatched this shit and ran off, or we just took it. He ain't do nothing. You feel me? I'm at the studio. I see this. I try to get up out of there because the nigga I was with pulled up on me. You feel me? And they beat me up for my chain. You feel me? I put up a whole fight for my. It was no just take my. No, I put up a fight for my chain.
But as a result, Dougie B ended up facing jail time for the robbery. With Dougie locked up, K-Flock and B-Love found themselves still caught in the mix of street life, desperately trying to escape it. Eventually, K-Flock, still a minor, found himself locked up in a juvenile detention center for a short time, adding more weight to his story. With B-Love the only one left free, he focused on his music, freestyling over drill beats while waiting for K-Flock to return. Once K-Flock was back, B-Love had a serious conversation with him. encouraging him to put his focus on music full time. B-Love even arranged K-Flock's first studio session, and in May 2020, K-Flock released his debut track, FTO. A remix of 22G's Blakey Freestyle. The song quickly garnered attention, reaching over 100,000 views as K-Flock's name gained traction. Just a month later, B-Love dropped his own track, No Hook, which also earned impressive numbers. With their momentum building, the two were now in a position to push the Bronx drill scene forward, consistently releasing music and collaborating to bring more attention to their movement. With the rise in attention came an even bigger target on their backs. Each new track seemed to take direct aim at their rivals, and that raw energy only fueled their popularity. Their music wasn't just about getting noticed. It was a way to stay focused, to remind each other that despite the chaos in the streets, the goal was to make it out through the music. By August 2020, Dougie B was out, and seeing the momentum B-Love and K-Flock had gained, he quickly rejoined the scene. This is when things really took off. Although they operated as a group, each artist had his own distinct style, and they began carving out individual paths. In March 2021, the trio dropped Brotherly Love, and it became an instant hit, amassing over 1 million views in its first month. The buzz surrounding them spread well beyond New York City, but it wasn't all smooth sailing. The war between Sev's side, the YGs, and OGs was intensifying, and the music only added fuel to the fire. What made it even more dangerous was that many people involved were incredibly young. K-Flock in particular was caught up in a personal feud with his own cousin, rapper D-Thang, just because they rep different sets. This shows how serious the rivalry was. On top of that, K-Flock had a falling out with E-Dot, a rapper who had once been his friend. After E-Dot was seen hanging out with K-Flock's ops during an Instagram live session, their friendship was over.
When E-Dot see me, where my mother? Where my son, my trip? Every trip, where my dad? And whoever with him, will have to run with him, where my mother, ain't no law.
Through all the violence and drama, their music kept pushing forward, and the influence of the Bronx drill became undeniable. What started as a sound quickly grew into a movement, one that was impossible to ignore, with both fans and foes feeling its impact across the city. It seemed like everyone had some kind of issue with each other. However, despite the constant tension, each of them was benefiting in some way from these feuds. Bronx drill was gaining massive attention, but it came at a devastating price. In July, tragedy struck when 21-year-old rapper Ty Swish was shot in the head outside his apartment.
New this morning, a deadly shooting in the Belmont section of the Bronx. Police say a 19-year-old man was shot in the head on Prospect Avenue near 181st Street around 11:30 last night. He was pronounced dead at St. Barnabas Hospital. The victim's name has not been released, and there are no arrests in the case.
Just 2 days later, 13-year-old Jarian was chased down and outside a cafe in Belmont.
In LA, tragically, that teen died after police say he was shot multiple times, at least one of those bullets hitting him in the chest. This all happened right behind me, right in front of Angel's Cafe. According to police, detectives and investigators, they've been out here, and you can see some of these crime scene markers on the ground here. This kind of illustrating where possible shell casings are. It even goes across the street.
The community was reeling from the violence, and the sense of unease was palpable. Authorities speculated that Jarian's death might have been an act of retaliation for Ty Swish's, though this remained unconfirmed. Not long after, 16-year-old rapper Rod G's became the next victim. While on his way to a studio session, he was shot by two teens on scooters as he was getting into an Uber.
Avenue in the Bronx, police say two men pulled scooters up next to a cab Medrano was taking to a recording studio. They then shot him in his head and chest, killing him.
Earlier that day, Rod G's had mocked Jarian's death on social media, only escalating the situation. The cycle of dissonant deaths seemed endless, with no clear end in sight. Amid this turmoil, K-Flock, Dougie B, and B-Love were on the verge of breaking through the mainstream. Their hard work was finally beginning to pay off. Soon after, K-Flock released his song Being Honest and got his first major feature from J Herbo. Lil TJ and 504 later joined him on the track In the Mood. K-Flock's music began to get regular airplay on Hot 97, and he made his debut at Rollin' Loud, his first major performance. Not long after, all 3 rappers signed major record deals, with K-Flock's rumored to be worth millions. Finally, they all had the money and freedom they'd worked so hard to achieve. Even with the success, the street life that had helped them rise to fame was still closely tied to their image. The dissing, gang affiliations, and rivalries were still a major part of the narrative. But with their newfound wealth came some perks. K-Flock took trips to Miami, bought a new BMW, and treated his sister and girlfriend to shopping sprees. But fame and money also made him an even bigger target. Every move he made, he had to be calculated more than ever before. On the morning of December 16th, K-Flock went live again, taunting his enemies and reminding them that he wasn't lacking. He showed the gun tucked into his waistband. A few hours later, he was seen walking down 115th Street in Amsterdam dressed in a Montclair jacket, unreleased Air Jordans, and $1,400 Amiri jeans. His outfit was enough to draw attention. As he walked by a barber shop, surveillance footage showed Oscar Hernandez rushing out to confront him. The cameras lost sight of them for a moment, but it was clear that a confrontation was about to take place. When Oscar turned to walk away, K-Flock pulled the gun from under his jacket and shot Oscar Hernandez twice, once in the neck and once in the back. Oscar was rushed to the hospital, but didn't survive. K-Flock, sensing the heat, made a quick escape. Because of these multiple camera angles, investigators quickly pieced the situation together and issued a warrant for K-Flock. But it didn't take long for cops to find him. By December 23rd, K-Flock turned himself in, with his high-profile lawyer Scott Lehman by his side. They drove straight to the precinct where he handed himself over. Lehman, in a statement, pointed out that rumors were circulating claiming K wasn't actually the shooter in the footage. But the authorities shut those rumors down fast. K was denied bail, and they locked him up while they continued gathering evidence. Then in March, a major move was made. K-Flock fired his old lawyer and brought on a new one, the same lawyer who represented El Chapo. The new lawyer was quick to make it known that he believed in K-Flock's case. In an Instagram post, the lawyer explained the situation, claiming that while the government said K-Flock pulled the trigger, the victim had been holding a loaded gun when he was killed.
Well, he was arrested months ago for a murder that occurred in broad daylight in Manhattan, Upper Manhattan. He happens to be a very soft-spoken, despite his rap music, which is not necessarily, actually it's pretty good, I have to say. I actually like it. And it's not my first choice of music, rap music, but he's a really talented kid. He was in an area where somebody saw him. They were inside a barber shop, and somebody walked out to confront him. It's all on video. It's very clear that he wanted nothing to do with the guy. He waves the guy off. He's walking with a young woman. And as shown in the video, the guy is walking towards him in a very aggressive manner. He puts his hands in his pockets, and Kevin is alleged to have seen the guy walking towards him aggressively with his hand in his pocket and took a gun out and shot
his
the guy.
His lawyer started pushing the idea of self-defense, saying K didn't plan to kill Oscar, but he was just trying to survive a confrontation in a dangerous area. Fans rallied behind him, certain that he'd be out soon. But court dates kept getting pushed back, leaving everyone frustrated. In November 2022, things took a bizarre turn. A court clerical error listed his next appearance for December 2028, sparking confusion and shock. People thought it was a mistake, and not long after, the date was corrected to November 16th. But once again, that hearing got delayed. The only updates fans got were from K himself, who dropped bars in a phone call from jail, confidently saying that he would be home in 2023. The next big date was set for February 2023, and fans in the drill scene were anxiously waiting for the return of Bronx's biggest drill artist. But nobody was ready for the bombshell that dropped next. Early on February 23rd, just hours before K was about to go to court, the federal government dropped a 15-page indictment on him and 7 others, charging them under the RICO Act. These are serious charges, typically built over years, but for K-Flock and his crew, the government only needed 2 years of evidence. Some people felt like this was a rush move to keep K locked up. Either way, The feds had enough evidence to go after him and his entire crew, looking to make an example out of them. The thing is, New York wasn't playing around. The city's got one of the strictest sentencing systems in the country. And after all that talk about gang violence and K-Flock's lyrics and actions, New York wasn't about to let that image spread. This is a city that's home to Wall Street and some of the wealthiest people in the world. New York wasn't about to let itself become a crime haven. If you're out here flashing guns on Instagram Live and threatening people, there's no way you're getting away with it. Not in New York. You might get a pass in like Chicago, Houston, or Miami, but not here. Now it all starts to make sense. Those delayed court dates weren't just random. What people once thought would be a short sentence was now looking more like a possible life sentence, with the death penalty still on the table. K-Flock and his team aren't saying much, but photos of him behind bars have surfaced. Authorities are moving to arrest the other 7 people involved too. The stakes are high. At just 19, K-Flock's dream of getting out and changing his life is quickly slipping away. Time's ticking and his future is hanging in the balance. He might have already crashed out before even getting a chance to truly make it. It's looking like K-Flock crashing out came faster than anyone imagined. Do you think he'll make it out? Or is this the end of his story?